Am I the a-hole for not being a team player within my family so my siblings can have the best? My parents resent me for being born. They were 19 when they had me, and I ruined their plans for college and their lives. They kept me, but they told me the heat of the moment when I asked too much from them that they have expressed their resentment for me. My parents had my brothers and sisters starting when I was 8. Now I'm 17 and they have 5 kids, me included. They love my siblings, and they go above and beyond for them. Always have. And they expect me to not only be okay with that, but they want me to also go above and beyond for them. They have told me I'm not a team player, that I am not a good sister, and that I am not doing what I should as the oldest. I work and go to school. I babysit as a side gig too. I have money that I save, but I never spend it on my siblings, and it drives my parents crazy. I have been paying for my own food for the last 2 years, and I don't really interact with anyone. It came to a head about a week ago when my 7-year-old sister wanted a specific Halloween costume after she was teased for the one my parents bought her. My parents couldn't afford a new one and asked me to buy her whatever she wanted. I said no. My sister ended up asking me herself because mom and dad couldn't. And when I said no again, my parents blew a fuse and said I wasn't being a team player and I should want my siblings to have the best. They said I should love my siblings enough to make their lives the best possible, and that I should stop being selfish and immature. I told them they should have been better parents and created a family instead of making me the outsider. And that is not my job to ensure their favorite children get the life they never wanted to provide for me. They said it's not their fault they didn't want to have me. I told them it wasn't mine either, that I had no say in being born or being kept. I said I do have a say in what happens when I turn 18, and to hell with them because I was not going to keep being punished for my birth. My siblings heard the fight, and I can see they're upset that I'm not more loving and invested in them. I guess that's why I ask, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, not in the slightest. You were not responsible for your birth. They were. It's not fair for them to consistently punish you for not acting as a third parent to their subsequent offspring. Parentification at its finest. It needed to be said. What your sibling heard was collateral damage from the truth. It would have come out one way or another. At least they found out and can adjust their expectations. It seems like the parents are growing increasingly resentful that Opie is getting to the age they were when they had Opie, and yet doesn't have to sacrifice her life for a kid. So they're trying to make Opie do exactly that. Not the a-hole. They are being hypocrites. They resent you for ruining their lives, but they had 4 other kids aside from you, and they seem to be happy to have these other kids. If they willingly had other kids, then they can't have anything against you. They weren't a team player when not including you in the family. They were expecting you to use your hard-earned money to pay for something they want, since they couldn't get their lives together. I'm so sorry your biological parents treat you like some outsider of a benefactor and servant, who's supposed to serve and provide for their family. They are wrong, period. You're not a parent and don't deserve to be expected to be one. They expect gratitude for 17 years of mistreatment, but you are not obligated to validate their unjust demands and insane delusions. Don't let them guilt you into sacrificing yourself. Your parents scapegoated you for their poor decisions, which is a truly disgusting thing of them to have done. I do have sympathy for the younger kids as they seem to be caught in the middle of this, and as a result are missing out on an older sibling and all the cool benefits that can come along with that. Opie should get the hell out of that situation as soon as humanly possible, but should also try to connect with her siblings. Just as Opie had no choice, neither did they. As long as the children aren't entitled or treat Opie any differently, they are their own persons and may want a totally different and far more positive relationship. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not giving my adopted parents the money they needed I got from my dad's parents? So I always had a great relationship with my parents. I was adopted at birth and told when I was a toddler. Everything was fine until I turned 16/17. My parents were both in their late 30s and decided it wasn't too late, and that with the advance of fertility technology in the years, it is possible they could still have a biological baby. I was a bit hurt they wanted a biological child so badly, especially after years and years, and told them they should foster, but they said no. They wanted another try. A lot of their word choices hurt me. I'm now 23. They have been trying for a baby using IVF and other methods to no avail. My mother is now 46. Not trying to be ageist or anything, but it can be hard to conceive even with fertility treatment. When my parents, who went from being doting and loving to now contacting me twice a month since I moved out at 21, invited me over for dinner, I was so happy, got ready and everything, and drove an hour and a half away. To my surprise, the dinner was just an excuse for my parents to ask me if I could carry one of their last embryos for them, and that they would help me pay off my student loans. I was so offended and felt like an incubator. They barely speak to me, and they only invited me to ask me that 10 minutes into it. I left their house in tears. Sadly, just a week later, my grandfather, Dad's dad, passed away. After the funeral, I told my grandma why I wasn't talking to my parents at the service since we were always close, and she was so shocked at what they asked me. She told me she'd give me the money they promised to my dad from my grandfather's insurance to pay off my loans. When my parents found out, they've been texting me begging me to give them just a portion of the money for their treatments. They wouldn't even need me and they'd hire a surrogate and that they were sorry. I said no, and now they've been calling me the biggest a-hole and saying I'm being greedy. Even some families say I'm being too hard by not giving them anything. Haven't even gotten the money yet, and me and my grandma are being painted out as the major a-holes. Are we? I'll have money left over I pay my loans, but they aren't much. It has been their dream for years, and I'm overreacting by the request. I'm so sorry your parents are being like this. You did nothing wrong. They have no claim to your body like that. Being a surrogate for family is something you should do because you want to, not because they are holding money over your head. Now that I'm getting the money, they're saying it's not about that they asked me to carry their baby. I'm just being selfish because I want to be the only child. Even though that's not why I just feel hurt, they had asked me that like I'm not their daughter. It's cemented that they don't see me as their daughter anymore. They're begging my grandma to give me only exact enough for my loans, and giving them the rest like they were promised. I feel bad because my mom was crying about it and she said she regrets asking me, but I feel like she's just saying that because she didn't think my grandma would take the money back. I don't know. I'm conflicted. Don't feel bad, hon. I am appalled at how they treated you, and they should be ashamed of themselves. You don't owe them anything, and good on grandma for recognizing how despicable their behavior has been. They don't deserve a baby after how they treated you. She regrets it because she's not getting what she wants anymore. It doesn't sound like the apologies were coming in when it was just about your hurt feelings. She's 46. However much I get her dream, it is time to call it quits. They got so obsessed they forgot they already had a daughter and neglected you. Now they're trying to use you as an incubator and cash cow for their shriveled up dreams. Anti-A, anti-A, anti-A. The selfishness is off the charts here. With a mother at 46, that kid would be almost certain to have some form of permanent health issues or disabilities. Wow. I'm curious as to how they would have paid off your loans if they're crying out for money now. Sounds like something they would have backtracked on, given their behavior. I'm sorry that you're going through this. Your grandma sounds like a great lady. Keep her close and mute the negativity. Their reproductive stuff is not your fault, your issue or your responsibility. Good luck. Next story. Am I the a-hole for making my daughters take my friend's daughter on their trip? My 46 female twin daughters, 21 female Tori and Tammy, are both in college and they're planning to do a 2-week trip to Italy, and I'm paying everything as a birthday gift. My best friend Diane has a daughter, 18 female Lori, and she has been worried because Lori has no friends. My daughters and Lori used to be closer when they were little, but grew apart when they became teenagers. Diane asked me if my daughters could try to include Lori in their social lives so she isn't lonely all the time. I called Tammy about this, and she felt bad about Lori, so she has been talking more to her since. They invited Lori to their dorm one time and go out with her a few times. I thought that the next step was to invite Lori to the trip to Italy. First, I talked with Diane about it and she agreed. She said that Lori has been happier since she started seeing my daughters again. Diane said that if my daughters agreed, she would pay for Lori to go to Italy with them. But when I talked to them, they were not happy with the idea. They say that Lori is too childish and would prevent them from having more adult fun in Italy. I think they are being really selfish and mean. Also ungrateful to me, considering I'm paying for everything. We have been arguing, and I more or less said that Lori is going with them, even if they don't want to. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. You're the a-hole. Your daughters are grown-up young ladies. We shouldn't be making playdates for them anymore. They might enjoy Lori's company for dinner or an outing, but they don't want to spend 2 weeks with her. You are giving a gift with strings attached, which is not a nice thing to do. Heck, I have some fantastic friends that I'm close to but I'm not interested in traveling with. Our respective personalities wouldn't make us good travel buddies, and that's okay. It doesn't mean we're not good friends. Can we also focus on there maybe being a real reason this girl doesn't have any friends? I guess it's her copter mom. Probably micromanaged her friend group so intensely that Lori has no clue how to make her own friends. Mom, you're the a-hole. I appreciate your kind mom's heart that feels for that 18-year-old, but your daughters are 21, and there's a big difference in those 3 years. It's not ungrateful at all. It's a gift you chose to give them. They didn't ask for it. Why should they have to accommodate someone else on their trip and be responsible for her? Lori has no friends, but it isn't your daughter's responsibility to make up for that. Please let them go on a trip for their birthday by themselves. It's not fair. Lori can learn to make her own friends. Those girls have already done as you asked and included her in their regular social lives. Let them go to Italy. This right here. Let your daughters have their time together and don't force them to bring someone along they don't particularly want to. If you do, they'll just end up resenting you every time they remember the trip. The biggest mistake you made was to talk with Diane about Lori going before you spoke to your daughters. General rule, always clear this kind of thing first with the folk who are impacted most if it goes through, and last with the folks who are impacted most if it doesn't go through. This way, if your twins reject an idea, like they have, then Lori doesn't have any hopes built up that get dashed. I just hope Diane ever told Lori about it, otherwise this will crush her. What's worse is that Lori will blame Tori and Tammy, and this will drive a wedge between them and their relationship. Hell, it's a no-win, even if you do end up forcing Lori to go to Italy with Tori and Tammy. Lori isn't stupid, she'll realize that she isn't wanted there. All forcing her to go will do is breed more resentment. Tori and Tammy versus Lori for her intruding on what should have been a sister's trip, and Lori versus Tori and Tammy for not wanting her there. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not visiting my parents when my sister is around with her kid? I, 25 female, have 2 sisters, 28 female and 31 female. My oldest sister has a kid. I'm also planning on having kids in the future, and I love kids, but sometimes I get exhausted around them. I love my own kid, and I'm hoping to be the best mother ever, but I can't stand the expectation that I have to constantly like other people's kids and always be willing to care for them no matter what. Let's call the middle sister Kate and the oldest Jenny. Jenny has totally changed since having a kid. She used to want to stay child-free, but after an unplanned pregnancy, she decided to keep the kid, and she is now a stay-at-home mom. But since then, she's not the greatest person. She expects everyone to be her maid and her kid's babysitter. When she's around, she expects everyone to be 100% focused on her kid, and if you're not, she'll shame you for being a child hater. She's unbearable. My sister Kate has always been a people pleaser, and she does everything to seem like the good sister and aunt, even if it means putting her own needs aside. That's her choice, and I don't necessarily mind, but I'm not like that. I play with a kid, care for the kid, but I can't always be running behind a kid at all times. Whenever my sister is visiting my house, she's never checking her kid and expects everyone else to do so. Same thing when she visits my parents. The last time she visited my place, her kid broke a vintage porcelain doll my fiancé had gifted me, which used to belong to his grandma. It was very sentimental. And when my sister barely reacted to the kid breaking my doll, she also said I'm not a kid to be sad over a fricking doll and told me to get over it. She blamed me for not watching her kid, and if I had watched her, she wouldn't have broken my doll. I told her that unless she starts caring for her own kid, she won't be allowed in my house. A few days later, I had visited my parents. Jenny was there and so was Kate. Kate was always making comments about how heartless I am because I don't pay attention to the kid. She accused me of hating the kid and claimed she's the better aunt. Jenny laughed with Kate about it. They then started making fun of me for being sad about the doll. I said it's not just about the doll, but about the expectations she puts on other people. My parents and my sister Kate sided with Jenny and said I should be grateful she's warming me up just in time to also be a mom. I said I've had enough of being bullied into watching her kid. And while I love the kid, I won't visit my parents whenever Jenny's around because I feel exhausted both physically and emotionally when the mocking takes place. They said I'm being dramatic and I should get over myself. They claim I'm also a child hater if I refuse to watch and play with the kid all the time. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your family sounds exhausting. I've never understood why people think they don't need to supervise their own kids just because there are other adults in the same area/house. Her kids are her responsibility. Even if someone else is playing with their child, it's still up to the parents to monitor their behavior and correct them and generally meet their needs, like food and hydration and toileting needs, etc. I'm exhausted because I'm blamed for not being behind her kid 24/7. When I dare have my own interests and life, I'm accused of not loving her kid. They even say that to the kid that Aunt X doesn't love you as much Aunt Kate loves you more, which is ridiculous. They're conditioning the kid to see me as someone who doesn't love her. Yes, refuse to be around your sister, who is entitled and a bully. If your parents or other sister give you crap when you visit, calmly say you refuse to be manipulated and leave. No drama, yelling or flouncing out the door. Just calmly say, okay, gotta go, and do it. Every single time. If they still won't stop, even knowing you'll leave when they start up, they've demonstrated that they don't value you as a person, only someone to push around. Then you'll have no qualms at going low contact. I'm sorry, but your family sounds awful. You should be grateful she's warming you up? No. Her kid, her responsibility. It would be different if she specifically asked you to watch her kid for a certain period of time, like if she had to run an errand. But she just can't assume everyone in eyesight is now automatically a babysitter, and she can relax and ignore the child. Not stay home for setting and enforcing boundaries. She and my parents shame me for not keeping my eye on kid 24/7 whenever I'm around my sister. They tell the kid that I don't love her. My sister doesn't work and she's responsible for her house and her kid, yet expects everyone else to do the work for her. She only goes out for coffee and drinks with her friends and expects my mom to babysit my niece all the time. And my mom also cleans my sister's house and cooks for her and her husband. My sister and her husband do nothing to care for their own house and family.